Niente tanti mesi del taglio ma da io marsangia. Il conto da
So, good evening, everyone. There is, in Tibetan culture, there is a painting of an old person presenting longevity. And Geshe said, it looks like a bit like you, Nobu Kunsang, did you say? Konjo Nobu. So it's a bit so being a bit bold on the upstairs department of the head, and with beard and a little bit of long hair at the back. So it's like your longevity deity. Geshe thought that they exist only in the God's realm, but apparently he got it wrong. Yeah. Do you speak some Tibet?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
I would like.
Work in progress.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry.
There was once, in one occasion, there was a guy, it is honest as Dalai Lama's teaching. He was sitting in the front, and he had the same style as you, so kind of long beard, but a bit boldish in the upstairs department. And his honest made a joke that it's like, it's covering the basis of both additions and omissions. It's like additions where you don't necessarily need, omissions when you do need it. Having said that, Geshe said that it looks very nice on you. You spot it very well. So, have you studied the Dhamma well? Well, what did you? I guess that it's a question of like, where did you study? Or?
Yeah, I first took refuge with exams Chogi Chinchin in 2006. Chogi Chinchin in Sima, from my friend here.
All right.
Victoria.
Okay.
Then Lamdre 5 times, Vajragini, and one time with this author Lama Yamataka.
Thank you. Camdro Corsioni, Manzucati Camdro Corsianes, Cam Sudro Sagi, you can Kunjo Sunda, chickens, Chona, Chishingachik, Jango, the Shingo, the Cam Sudro Sagi, you the and Wednesday, which Matuna, Telecam Sudri, Camdro Nanda said the Cabo Parent Basra, in the Nanzu, Penata, and Densakalaya, Capsum the and Dawasum shit in the ya kept some junglers.
Apparently, there's someone at home that knows you. We get here some messages on Zoom, so it says welcome. Anyway.
Thank you.
Anyway, Geshe said that we've been having a presentation of the 3 refuges. We started with general teachings. Geshe spoke of the 4 truths, which led up to this presentation of the 3 objects of refuge, which is for us important as we want to go for refuge in an informed way. So if you do decide to go for refuge, you want to do it based upon knowing what the objects of refuge are and so forth. In the monastery, monks studied that over 3 or 4 months, right? Just focusing on the topic of refuge. This topic is taught over 3 or 4 months.
당시 야구여로스 따라 요구로 있다 요로스 나 배는 나란로 짐바이나 그게 가든 나란로 빼자는 시기 나란로 임바나 먼저 아니 파싱 숑디 숑기 다 파싱기 아니 지진 참고 비비 땡중원도 김 갑당부즈니 갑당부즈를 제려야 아니 진짜 용조 그 딱스르킬람 육주시 체체 아니 진짜 나오는 pen 되는 진짜는 미디어 주룩스지였어 난 미디어 주룩이 육셀렌치 이게 아무런 담보는 미주룩 발이야 아니 그 속 길이야 자망 길이야 아니 저한테 제약이 님바시 제그레스 아니 숑 빼놨다 리졸럼 아니 셈게 당나 캡슨 세트니 안갑트디 아니 말이야 캡슨디 드로잉 제약이 그거 들어서 하나
So we need to have good samayas. This is to say good pledges that we have with respect to the three refuges. So the way that it is done, just to give you certain idea of how it is done in the monastery, you cover this topic when you study the defection system, the Paramitayana system. Now, when you study this system, the main text that you use is Maitreya's Abhisamaya Alamkara, the ornament for clear realization. And the topic comes up in the first chapter. So the first chapter covers a few topics: mind generation, Buddha nature, this is, say, the lineage, refuge, and so forth. So you cover those topics in the first chapter. Then you sit for an exam. And in Geshe's class, he had 116 students, right? So all of them took the exam together. Normally what the tradition in the monastery, that of the people that take the exam, you take the first 16 people that do best in the exam, right? So the one that has scored the highest mark in the exam, next one in line. So you take 16 people, and then they debate or do a session of questions and answers in front of everyone on the debate court, right? So they do this discussion or questions and answers in front of everyone, and everyone gets a different topic. The one that Geshe got to discuss was the topic on refuge. So when you think of this event, when you try to visualize it, so you have you're picked from amongst your peers in class. Then you have to debate in front of about 3,000 monastics. The one that Geshe got to do together with one of his classmates was the topic of refuge. And he said that because he had to do that, you have to present a certain discussion and debate in front of this great number of monks. You also get to particularly train and drill the things that you have studied over 3 or 4 months. So Geshe got this topic, but he wasn't able to appreciate that at that point in time. So there wasn't any special feeling that came up in his mind during that time. But then now in hindsight, looking back at that event, having studied for all those years, whatever you study, you need to put into practice, and the essentials of the practice that you need to cover are going for refuge. So from that perspective, Geshe says that in hindsight, it is such a great not only opportunity, but it is also an important one.
아니 지금 수수 라마 기비신이라야 원의 단위게 미진되는 수수 가능 지용도지 제일 고급 라스스 이제 딘지를 때문이지 도스지 상당하게 아니 뭔지 않아야 근데 지금 편도 연구였어요 상성기 전능식 이해스라 벤선로전 당가랑 상담하는데 이 아니 제목이 말에 빼나 그것은 먼저 진짜 준비게 다기 잠이 아니 너무 상황 방송 고cap지 아니 대체 말도 가지고 양아서 증님은 딱 봐 안 되려야 아니 좀 사야지 많이 사야지 아니 지 공부차 주고다 안 된다고 아니 담지 취재하기 샤바사야 배시 다와치 하가지려야 안가서 아니 너무 디는 기타치 뭐만 샤브랑 소리지 안 초이 바스 라 초원이 단단히도 상담 띵가라가라 나랑 지게 왔다스 아니 지 너무 디나로에 약슈로 나서 디네 단디 약슈 제도지려야 차야 너무 디나니야 아니 나딘 디나로에 약슈로 차야디 먼저 딘디기 삼반남다 제 디가 폐요서라 삼성기 안 소지기스.
So we need to have heartfelt refuge in the three objects of refuge. So Geshe said that at least when he looks at what he has developed throughout the years, during the years, then he feels that he does have a heartfelt going for refuge. And also he had the opportunity of relying upon his spiritual teachers, virtuous friends, his lamas. So making prayers to the three objects of refuge and so forth, Geshe reckons that that will bring about benefit. That's beneficial. So just to give you an example, for instance, all of us went into lockdown sometimes towards the end of March, right? And since all of us went into lockdown because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we here, the people that stayed here, the community, we use our time in order to do certain practices. So we accumulated recitations of Tara and the Mani mantra. Also doing practices such as protective practices, Mahakala, Pandanamo, and so forth. And we did that as a way of offering service to the public, right? So then now when we look at our situation here, particularly in this part of the country, it seems that we're enjoying some good conditions, good situation, particularly when you compare it to other parts in Australia. It seems that, first of all, Queensland is faring quite well. And within Queensland, it seems that we are tucked in this area that is doing quite well. So whether it is correct or not, Geshe is not sure, but at least the way that he looks at that is that when you have faith in the three objects of refuge, when you do such practices and prayers and so forth, this is some indication that it is going in the right direction.
만두 스제바 치원디 가실에 펜바다 가실라 마펜바기 깬자 가르레 디 콜레 깬지 고그로 스티 두스 깬레 딱지 치원디 아니 대바다 담실레 투여버디 로몽리레 신주 치바나 생레 소리야지 야자자탄 요사레스.
So the point that Geshe is emphasizing here is the importance of faith and samaya. Particularly, it is important in our Buddhist Dharma practice. It is important not only in the Indian system, but also in our system, beginning with the way to rely upon a spiritual teacher. So then looking at the practices that we undertake, some find those practices helpful, whereas others find them not helpful. So why is it that they're helpful for some and not for others? What is the dividing line between being helpful or not being helpful? Geshe reckons that the dividing line between being helpful or not is faith and samaya bonds. If you have heartfelt faith and also you keep those samaya, the pledges, they will be of help. Those practices will be of help.
아니 대바 치사기 율디 문제 야고지 제마도나 대바 치싱 말았어라 대바 치싱 말.
And since faith is so vital, without identifying precisely what the objects of refuge are, you're not going to develop faith. It's not possible to develop faith without identifying the things that you trust or that you have faith in.
대자다 대바 치사기 율구조디 단쇼기 직신 선수 대바 치사기 율구조디 아니 꺄비 콘주슨 차고라스 꺄비 콘주슨 차고라스 다 디니 아니 라마야 다 람돌 네 때문에 라마야 람돌 네 신지만도 때문에 남기 위신이 되다 다 대바 치사기 율조 차고라스 진짜 기기들이야지 원제 양 제마도 보이나 아니 대바치사 변나다지 잠들리는 놈 출루 마부 여인자 대바치사기 신롱제 아니 단 잠들이야 대바치니 거라게 배딩이 이거라서 난수 대바치 좀 내리기 진주 속에 대바치사기 요디 콘조송데 진짜 콘조송 문제다 아니 지심을 심발이야 다 장고도스 교대 야종만마 아니 콘조송 남자 체제의 디토야 아니 장바 체제 아니 문제 체토 제고도 asra.
So what are the things that we have faith in this tradition? We have faith in the three objects of refuge to begin with. But also we have faith in the lamas, the spiritual friends that unerringly teach us what we need to take up and what we need to cast aside. Those are the things that we have faith in. These are the main objects of faith. So without identifying them precisely, we're not going to be able to develop faith in the objects of refuge and the lamas, the spiritual friends. So in order then to identify them, we need to train, we need to study. So we study the Indian systems and so forth in order to develop an understanding of the thing that we trust, because there are different religions, different spiritual traditions around the world that assert their own objects of refuge. So you might find in some traditions that people develop trust and faith in powers of nature, trees and the like, right? So doing certain practices in relation to them, circumambulations and so forth. So if we want to distinguish between what we do here in the Buddhist tradition versus what is done in other traditions, that is done, first of all, on the basis of being able to identify what are the things that we have faith in our tradition, the objects of refuge, and also the lamas, the virtuous friends.
These are the number sanjibi and churching Tawada Tamjikim, the means of Jati, and it can be controlled to raise that and just Jamungoina. Sika Chupu on Sonsha, teacher was that. 당연히 교육 건조성 문제 지역가들이야. 자무가들이다. 고 담보 산지 건조 생기다. 직니 규모 제부스 또에 제부치진 아니 산지 건조디 간지미 당 문제 지역이 개체부 직차가 되었어.
As Maitreya said in his text, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha are the objects of refuge for those desiring liberation or desiring the state of Buddhahood, the state of omniscience. That being the case, first off, when we train in going for refuge, we begin with going for refuge to the Buddha. Now, in order to go for refuge to the Buddha, we need to understand what a Buddha is. And we do that through looking at Buddha from different perspectives, from the perspective of causes, from the perspective of nature, and from the perspective of results.
Pena ngazu sangi ko an jomde di kunda tuta sachim chigora asra ani ko shuksai na ya kus ni ko gyuchai na kan lele tang an dele ya ji an chen tu zen ta ji zen tang ji se le so chugya so ti chigyo ta ya bu pelo yina ya an di sangi gi jakus la mo do sangi kung di chagyo maros ta jaku tel ya sangi dan jawi ji ko shangshang telya ani tsachimbu chigiyo bana ngoni sanjiti teli kyang tsachibachi ro teli kyang tsachibachi teli kyang pe ani sanjisingiti kari imbati chimmachi shintuwe chigoyadi pe keshimu chagorasro.
So for us as Buddhists, for example, we have statues, like a Buddha statue. Now, the word for a statue in Tibetan is ku or kudra. The meaning of that is a similitude of body, which means that a statue is a similitude of a Buddha body. So we create statues, right? Those similitudes of a Buddha. We prepare something to mount the statue on. We prepare a seat. We choose the material. We cover the statue in paint or precious substances, gold, and so forth. And we regard the statue to be so precious, so important. If this is the attitude that we take, then even more than this statue, we should hold the Buddha as being very precious to our heart, very important. Much more than a statue, which is just a similitude of the Buddha.
대바샤이다 야구로 왔어요. 이내야 강 자규기 아니 상기기 된다디 상기 우디기 아니 고와다 디기 뭐 문제지 못하고나 아니 상기기 자꾸래야 대바샤고 칼도야 아니 대바 노드에 니가 요러스 되니 다 대바샤 마신기 미 같이 와서 아니 규자를 때시 섭달을 때니 아니 자치문 진대야지 연구여버디 아니 대바샤 마시병 강 자규 상기 그 아니 지 고된 마시병이 아니 콘드라기 규자다 섭달을 따대야지 차고라서.
And if we hold Buddha to be even more precious, more important than a statue, then we need to understand what a Buddha is. What a Buddha is in actuality. Otherwise, if we don't understand what Buddha is, what is the actual phenomenon that is Buddha from the viewpoint of causes, nature, results, and so forth, we might make mistakes with respect to the way that we approach statues and so forth, in that we might have faith based on a statue, a similitude of a Buddha body, but the type of faith that we might develop will be distorted, will be mistaken, in the sense that it might be faith that is just based upon the material that a statue is made of, or the shape of the statue, without understanding what Buddha is. There is a danger that a faith will go wrong.
아니 지 시설 피어서 꾸줄이야 아니 셀 피어서 콘트라디 통첨부 용역의 체 아니 자원인 지요 말았어 라 원리기 상기려야 대바용인 강사디 아니 콘트라리야 인지 당체 피어디 콘트라디 미 통첨부 용역의 체 자원인 소고 말았어 간스는 상기의 일단 딱 먼저야 가든 진짜 상기라인 자원이면서 딘지 가진 수여진 텔레 초바 텔레 미친 초바 텔레 초바 미친 아니 군들이야 아니 세피는 소 어디치고라서
And we might offer valuable things to the creation of a statue. Like, for example, sometimes we offer jewelry, ornaments. Sometimes we offer gold to a statue, to paint a statue in gold. And we do that not for the sake of raising the price or the value of that statue so that it will have this great magnificence of value. It's not that we do that in order for others to appreciate the value of this statue. We do that as a token of appreciating the kindness of Buddha. And in making offerings to such statues, it's like making offerings to Buddhas in order to repay their kindness.
아니 가서다 더 산기 원이 산기 산기라야 신이 대보통이지 뭐나 아니 즉 산기 군다라야 아니 교자가 돈 개버 써니 내봐 아니 산기 군다 인 도저야 아니 대보 직규 그 샤토겠지 통 직규래야지 야자께다 뭐 요요레스라 난주 말해야 돼 난주 교자가 돈 배나 사이 꾸지기 뭐나 텔레야 직견자야나 직 아니 르단 친종 피데야 아니 세트도 피마라야 소바 피타 산세르 그 동샤기 도솔라 안치 세트도 망나야 소바 인디치데 사우니 노르교렌도스 배나 자도지 딩기 피 초데르 무치나 슈비 통화르 무치 꾸디 규자디 페시 사인 도인지 이마이스라 아니 배우기 조이신은 고 아니 꾸친 진진디 신의 수입이 갖고 있는 집이 같이 딘지지르스라 소리에 게 아니 다 매너마도 견제 표지 도시치용이 아니 텔레야치 가서다 딘지지르스라
The type of faith that we want to develop is an informed faith, which means that it is a type of faith that will not make any distinction between statues in terms of their material, seeing some statues as precious and others not as precious, just based upon what material were used in order to construct those statues. So we would hold all of them as being equal, the same, regardless of the material. If they're made of clay, if they're made of stone, if they're made of wood, and so forth, we would not make any distinction, any difference with respect to them in terms of value or preciousness and so forth. So it does happen that we make those distinctions, isn't it? You come across a clay statue and you appreciate it less than a stone statue. Even as far as if you were offered gold to a statue, you would offer more gold to a statue that is made of a better material, like stone and so forth. But then when you think of statues that are considered to be really important in the hallmark of the Buddhist tradition, first and foremost, the Buddha statue in the great stupa at Bodh Gaya. So it is likely to be made of clay or stone. Then you have the statue, the Jo statue that is called Jo Wish Fulfilling Jewel statue at the Jokun Temple in Tibet, also made of wood. It is now ornamented with great ornaments, but it is made of wood and yet is regarded to be very precious.
디자다 지단이 군데 샹카들이야 군데 있나지 당가 있나지 아니 신 상황지 샹고야디 기침 배차고레스 나지 아니 준레부 샹고야디 준레부 샹고야 아니 첼라메와 샹고야 벤 당가도 지바이 당가 튀는 약보러 왔어 네 당가에 담보 비게 아니 티 만주지 루그 짜다 지 주바가 차디 아니 티들이야 티굿 차고레스 디 약보지 마게바이나 아니 자원이 마롱마치 순고도 좀 사서 제공했어 아니 비다 티우카들이야 저 시레 아니 직전다 상다 셰라 소바 아니 차다 샤가 소와 가시 배드직 아니 우침 유교 아니 직 차다 샤도서 팔든지 아니 직 가서 무통 막 썼다 서르시 진지 야고만 다스라
So we might construct a statue, we might craft a statue or paint a tanka. And although there is no difference in terms of the material that we use, it's still important to make sure that we do it correctly and precisely, because those things have certain measurements that we need to follow, some rules, measurements that we need to follow in order to make sure that at least the proportions are the right and accurate proportions. So for example, when you paint a tanka, this painting of a deity, it is important that the deity that you paint is in the right measurements. Now, not only has the right measurements, the right proportions, but also that there would be no additions and no omissions in what you use. So what you paint, right? So no additions and no omissions in what you paint, that it is painted precisely. So you begin with painting the grid. So each tanka has a certain grid. According to the grid, you create the body of the deity that you paint. You create their backbone, the spine, the arms, the legs, and so forth. And each one of them has a particular measure. You then, on that basis, paint the face, the eyes, the nose, the ears, and so forth, the arms, the legs. And they have to be proportional to each other. Otherwise, if you don't follow that grid and the right proportions, you might end up in a painting that looks quite awkward. Like, for example, painting a Buddha with a really big nose, but with hands and legs that are quite flimsy and thin, that might look like more like an insect.
Rumah teaching model ngazu tik tolaya this jangar was ra itu tikza so redos ta ena tangka ta tinkol so shanya kalya zawati and tik le chagores tikya ra tikya gyar to wena ini deni chi rumah tu chitangi and manchoya senyin sang yongya
So Geshe is not a tanka painter himself. He hasn't studied that, but still he's done a bit of practice with creating grids, right? So there are grids for mandalas, grids for painting a tanka, and the grid needs to be created, painted in a fixed and accurate manner. This is what you begin with. This is the backbone of your painting, the grid. So these paintings, tankans and so forth, follow a certain lineage. So it is different to the artwork that we do, let's say, in the West. It is different in a sense that there has to be a lineage to those paintings, and it is not a freestyle painting. It's not that you paint whatever you want, but it follows fixed rules. 근데 내가 담은데 그것만 상해.
산지 탐지 주tembo 보차기요 말어.
Okay.
그럼 고송
자,
투수. 네.
So then, let's get back to the topic. The topic is the refuge in the three jewels. And the first object of refuge is Buddha. So we regard the Buddha as the teacher of refuge, the teacher of Dharma. Not all Buddhas are teachers of Dharma.
제다들다 담보 직 상계세디 상계세디 아니 직 균군 세딩이 연딩 군된딩이 질이야 상기슬라고라스라 상기슬라고라.
So to begin with, let's look at what a Buddha is. Now the word for Buddha in Tibetan is Sangye, consisting of two syllables, Sang and Gye. These two syllables are connected with the development of all good qualities and the elimination of all faults, right? So the expansion in good qualities is, the elimination of all faults is Sang, and the expansion or development of all good qualities is Gye. Together we have Sangye, right? So this is what Buddha is, the elimination of all faults and the development of all positive qualities.
간지 안주 메다마스나 류가 익숨기 아니 꽤 참모장을 막은 질이야 아니 상세고레스 라 꽤 탐지길에 상하나 상세고레스 아니 지 시지추 아니 지 간지 콘디기 아니 뒤비기 시지추 탐지로 용수적으로 투수추딩기 아니 변에 깨우질이야 딱 상기파바세고레스 라 상기파바세고레스.
So then thinking about it in terms of a person, a human being, then a human being that is Buddha, in that sense, in Tibetan, we refer to that person as Sangye. So a person that is Buddha is someone that has no stains, any stain in their body, speech, and mind. Their body, speech, and mind are not tainted whatsoever by any fault. And on top of that, they have comprehended everything that is to be known. So there is an expansion in knowledge of all phenomena that exist in both samsara and nirvana. This is an Arya Buddha.
Mayimba chik meri, any sorry, soari, and jari, yongs zobalaya, and chanchu vitoni, and sangi gurata, shija tamji shingles ladi, yobichu kandajinaya, tigi niluda, tigi gyuken, the tigi drota, yongs zobati, and two shivitoni, and sangi gurasera.
So in the tradition that came from the great masters, the Indian Pandits, it is said that it is not possible for someone to become the supreme of all beings, to become Buddha, without training in the 5 fields of knowledge. Now, the 5 fields of knowledge cover not only the inner knowledge, which means the Dharma, but also other fields of knowledge, other areas, such as medicine, crafts, and so forth. So one needs to train in all those fields of knowledge in order to develop that expansion in knowledge of reality, for example, the reality of phenomena, the cause and conditions that produce such phenomena, and so forth.
아니 메이 거리 용수 저바 야 자다 아니 냥알아 소바다 베나다 메무고 바로 용수 저바야 장도스라.
So then thinking of some great masters like the great master Lama Tsongkhapa, having trained in, for example, building statues, painting tankas, in medicine, in grammar, poetry, and so forth.
벽 하시지 니 참아도 제마다 간지 니 지알 벽 니는 숨지 제소 맹고 그냥 안티 손 그래서
Or Nagarjuna, the Indian master Nagarjuna, who has composed a few volumes of text just dealing with medicine. Geshe hasn't seen or read all of them, but he did come across 3 of them.
Tinza da sanki singi tindiji ton ro kyo kun yonden kun se kasa kyo kun se yonden kun dingi ani shiji gi chue ani chetawa de chini bi chue tamje tus ani chue dingi kiwejiri islamangi dushi kamda myoba chetawa shin kingi yobata gyasha gyatamba inza dushi kamda myoba chetawa shendu 아니 최대 통행기 아니 람라야 투 통행기 아니 뒤딱 같이 아니 심진기 디지치야 시친 람데 용수를 당딩이 기우지레 슬라운디 신이 영원 쳐바치 에 당은 고토기도 서라.
So then when you begin with identifying what Buddha is, we say that Buddha is someone that has eliminated all faults and has developed to perfection all positive qualities. And as such, they have complete knowledge of everything that exists, reality and diversity. They know reality and diversity exactly as they are in their extent. And as such, therefore, they definitely 100% know all the dispositions of sentient beings, their inclinations, their mentalities, and so forth. Then, due to that knowledge, they have the ability to lead those disciples along their levels of spiritual development, which means that they're acting for the sake of happiness and well-being of sentient beings in order to set them in a state of happiness and well-being and assist them in the eradication of suffering. So when you think about it like that, your mind can be full of inspiration, thinking of what Buddha is.
그러나 디자 아니 다 디지지 아니 캔투 바이나 다 상기기 자꾸지 지원디 아니 센팅이 아니 자꾸 디 겐지니 아니 상기래야 아니 상기 시스템바 상기래야 대바디 아니 낭기페 아니 셈래야 원디 규야지 용그러왔어. 빼나 나주지 파마겐고 총사교기 빠르지 통해나 수수 파마겐고기 균아요 소외연자 빠르테 통유도기 믹스기 아니 파마테야 라 용그도스라.
So you develop the knowledge of these qualities of Buddha. And then when you come across a Buddha statue, the Buddha statue reminds you of what Buddha is. In your mind, you recollect what an actual Buddha is. And this is the function of those statues. It is similar to, for example, suppose that your parents have passed away. And then you come across a photo of your parents. Simply by looking at your photos, it brings up those memories that you have of your parents. So it is like that also with statues. If you know what Buddha is, then simply by looking at a statue, you recollect those qualities of Buddha. So regardless of the material that such a photo is made of, in a sense that suppose that you come across a photo of your parents, your old parents, or your children, or what have you, regardless of the quality or the accuracy of the photo, since it does have the ability to elicit those memories in your mind, you hold those objects to be precious to you. Sometimes you treasure those photos, you keep them, you keep them in a place that is safe and respectable.
제 딘자다 산지 인지기 다 직경 군세 연된 군딩기 개우디 안 다가 당분님 직엔 겐다 교다 겐 강아야 마데바 데 토마메바니 인지 차데바르스나 자원이 마레스라 난간주 베난간주 토이다 아니 싱겨라다 베난간주 위다 아니 간주 가든 예비 안 점된디 군이든지 온디 점된디나 디지 콜리케 여러 삼성기 소아치 로만 삼다나 제트고다스 인자 점된디 디지 콜리케 인진 상기고요나 난수다 레이 삼성기 셈슈파야지 용초사라스라.
And then when we think of Buddha, a question might arise in our mind. Is it that a Buddha has been Buddha right from the very get-go, right from the beginning? Is it that right from the beginning, they had all perfect qualities and no faults whatsoever? It is not like that, is it? Like, for example, in the Nalanda Master's Garden, right in front of the Gompa, we have a statue of the fasting Buddha, which can then remind us of how hard the Buddha worked in order to achieve this state of Buddhahood. So we too then know what this statue is telling us, that if we too are intent on attaining the state of Buddha, we too will have to work that hard.
아니 경계진 즉 셀라 취해 준절이야 아니 경당치 콜리케지 상기버스.
And when we think about it, the type of attitude that we develop is that we become willing to endure difficulties if we have to. We would willingly take up difficulties and hardship, even insofar as reducing our food intake and so forth, in order to at the end attain the state of Buddhahood.
텐자 좀된 디게 아니 니마치래야 아니 추기 텐데 니마치 말했잖아 까차카시그래야 아니 추기 텐데 르타이디 난주 메시지래야 아니 딘지지 르동치 마토나 아니 난주래야 추기 펜돌 주세야디
So then in thinking of relinquishing something, not just for a few moments or not just one day, but relinquishing something for the rest of our life, giving it up. If we are unwilling to do that, if we cannot do even that, there's not much hope for us that we'd be able to really get to the quintessential practice of Buddhism and thereby attain such result as a state of Buddhahood. Sometimes we get enthused when we encounter the Dhamma, and we spend a few weeks or a few months putting it into practice, and we expect immediate result. And when our expectations are not met, when we feel that we don't get the results that we should have had, we think that the problem is not in ourselves, the problem is in the Dhamma. The Dhamma is not helpful. It's not that we have had a problem with our approach to the Dhamma. So we find that it wasn't helpful so far, so we decide to do something else. It is a mistaken approach to the Dhamma. Whereas if you're committed to working hard, you can also relinquish certain things. When you persist in your Dharma practice, that you start to relish the taste of Dharma. The flavor of Dharma is growing stronger and stronger. The point that Geshe is making here is that when you train in the stages that lead to Buddhahood, you can certainly see that it is not an easy feat. It is not a simple thing by any means. It requires a lot of hard work and hardship along the way. This is something that you can definitely appreciate once you start to look at the stages that lead to the state of Buddhahood.
Hunso gele chiwi trim kus sanjilaya deba jongi ani pusum soba ani gewi ani gewata chewa mambu gi ani thanda masna chewa mambu sabale teni ani sanji kut chubaris and this one yours right.
You understand how the meditation practice, in order to attain the state of Buddhahood, is involved with a lot of hardship, a lot of hard work. And this is what Lama Tsongkhapa said when he composed his Songs of Experience. At the beginning of his text, Songs of Experience, he paid homage to the Buddha in saying your body is made of millions or millions, billions accumulations of virtues.
Punso said, Pusum Sobas Lam, you Pusum Sobas, you Pusum Sobas Lawars, you Pusum Sobas and Sanji, Kusum, Tusunki, Yontin data, Drumi Shibiki, and you, and Pusum Soba, indeed, Chewamburgi Mambo Sawa Tani, and Sanji Kundru Koris, Sondi, and you Pusum Soda Manso said, Nazu. Samnolaya, Yichi Yoden make Tony, and Chick Tanga Diana Soba that Chick Chubatis, Pia Tetsangi, Gupusum Soba and Droati, Kakushure Dosera.
So in this text, Lama Tsongkhapa praised the perfect causes, the excellent causes producing a Buddha's body. And those perfect causes are not just a few, but there are millions, billions of perfect causes that were created for the sake of attaining a Buddha body. So in looking at those causes, what we ask ourselves is whether we trust that these are perfect causes for Buddhahood. Like, for example, what would be a perfect cause for Buddhahood? Is it simply reciting some mantras or making offerings? If this is the only thing that you do, are you creating perfect causes for Buddhahood? It's not just that, is it? It's not that just reciting mantras and making offerings is the creation of billions of perfect causes for attaining the state of Buddha.
Tenza, Di, that Gupusum Soba, Sonum Yishik Soni, Gupusum Soba, Sonum Soda, Yishik Soni, Kanji, Sanji Godan, Tuk, and Gulayan, Drumishi, and Sonum the Yishik So, and Chevambum Mambu Saval Teni, and Sanji Kundruku Viores, Sanji Kundruku Dastra.
These perfect causes are included within the two accumulations, the accumulation of merit and the accumulation of exalted wisdom, which contribute to the body of mind of Buddha, So we create billions of causes included within the two accumulations that result in the two Buddha bodies.
대즈다 이게 선음의 이식이 초 상기 군중이 시바 디기 규진 초 들려야 아니 상기를 미비 대바 로 도드미 대바당 아니 심전을 미비 아니 제옹 아니 장바 아니 가서 다지 초리 미비 로 아니 칸지기 심전 탐절이야 장염 기타 투니기 아니 참바드세요 딩지니기 아니 실샤 토니 되니 소사들 좀 가르치고나 아니 손는데 이식 소리야 야시자다마다 로고스레스로.
So we have these two accumulations that we use for attaining the state of Buddha, the accumulation of merit and the accumulation of wisdom. So how do we contribute to these two accumulations of perfect causes for attaining Buddhahood? We do that through irreversible faith in, for example, Buddhas, but also through love and a sense of care for others that is focused on living beings, on sentient beings. And love and compassion, love and care for others need to be impartial, not biased. We create causes that are included within the accumulation of merit and exalted knowledge through the development of faith and love and compassion to others.
디마도다 아니 란진징기 아니 콘들라니 데니지 수수대야 요한치 수수 메시지 요한치도 아니 저거그 아니 마네장 가시대원디 아니 상기기 부수소비 줄이야 자원님 로그에서 말했어.
So, for example, if your motivation is self-cherishing, when you think, I'm doing it for my own happiness and well-being, at least in this life. For that end, I'm making offerings, I'm reciting mantras. All those things that you do with that self-cherishing motivation oriented towards this life, all of those different things do not become causes, perfect causes for Buddhahood.
and consumer capturing the knowledge teaching between young nature is and teaching with Jamrulia, Juminji, when it go meeting the Javi consumer Tebata and Simjan maybe Chamba Ninjiti, the Metamechados, Metamechados.
So then, refuge in the three jewels. Refuge in the three jewels becomes for us the basis of our practice of the Mahayana Dhamma. And in order for that to become the basis for our practice of the Mahayana Dhamma, what is indispensable is faith and love and compassion focused on sentient beings.
The thing you have another, thing in some way, and Lunga is some Chava Cheva, and Sanji Gillian Brushach.
So if you have these two aspects, faith and love and compassion for sentient beings, then whatever you do becomes a cause for the body, speech, and mind of Buddha. And with that attitude in combining those two aspects, faith and love and compassion to sentient beings, even simple activities, even as far as having food or drinking something, can act as cause for Buddhahood. Otherwise, if you don't develop these two aspects, if instead you're being motivated by self-cherishing, and you still take up ascetic practices, you might stop eating for 6 years, or even more than that, 12 years. even if you work so hard, you will not attain Buddhahood if you're motivated with self-cherishing. Motivated by self-cherishing. What you need to do is to cultivate compassion and the mind of enlightenment for that to result in Buddhahood.
찬상 따마토가는 쇼치문하는 셰비기 아니 꾸숨다 꾸실어서 남샤히 아니 고랍 점지여봐나 늑배 야구여랬으라.
So then first off, you identify the causes and conditions contributing to Buddhahood. Once you have identified the causes and conditions for Buddhahood, then you work hard in order to create and assemble the causes and conditions that bring forth the state of Buddhahood. And in order to do that, then you need first of all to study. So if you can study the great classics, the great scriptural system, that's good. But even if you cannot study all of them, still if you do some study, it's important to get to the point where you can identify, you know what the three Buddha bodies are, or the four Buddha bodies are.
These are the kanji any kumamushir kanji sanji pabagita sanji pabigu ku song tuk tamjelo nanzu sanjiris kyabsun dosagi yu and sanjit chagores ro.
So there's quite a lot that is involved with the presentation of the bodies of Buddha, right? 3 bodies, 4 bodies, and so forth. When we think of Arya Buddha, an Arya Buddha, the body of an Arya Buddha, the speech and the mind of Arya Buddha, all of them are Buddhas.
Reta sanji pigita chik sanji penata sugutavalaya ani sugulunku chukuslavra karsa
Longkut and Chuku.
Longkut suku longkut chukus
Chuku Longkut.
chuku longkut chukus.
So then the 3 bodies of So then the 3 bodies of Buddha, the Dhammakaya, the Dhamma body of Buddha, Sambhogakaya, the utility body of Buddha, and then Nirmanakaya, the emanation body of Buddha, right? These are the 3 bodies of Buddha.
Tilda, Tilza, ani tangan chuku shewundigi, chuku telea, chuku singindi, pena, ani chogu chuku tavalea, munze chichine. Chogu chuku di, ani da, nganzu dusha susuikewo, leta yanchigi, ani musu jetuyaki, ani kawachingi, dindichi chagores, ra.
So these are different classifications of the Buddha's bodies. One of them is that we mentioned is the Nirmanakaya, the emanation body of Buddha. And there are different types of Nirmanakayas. One of them is called Supreme Nirmanakaya, Supreme Emanation Body, which only those of fortune, those that have pure karma, can see.
The dinza ani the digi sanjiti chok chugutivita manzu zambling kamdile ma pevchi ani that should le mata bigi ani kansa yimbaini le mata bewangi sanji jetu yo marmado sanji ani chi dula ma pebata sanji kyabateja dindi tsawing remdos so zule mata bewangi ani sanji dun pebainiya jetu yo mares ta leda yanchiki and jechini and songus to the nyamsule malateni and how the tamji kimi sadaya drutuya chi yungu yoros ra
So a supreme Nimanakaya has come to this world. So a Buddha that is supreme Nimanakaya came to this world, and those fortunate one of pure karma were able to encounter a Buddha in actuality. But also there were many that did not have pure karma. Those that were of karma that it was not pure were not able to see the Buddha as Buddha. They were unable to interact with a Buddha as Buddha due to them not having purified karma. So you could say that it would be the case also for us. If our karma is not pure yet, then it's not that a Buddha would not come at all. It might be that a Buddha would appear in front of us, but we would not be able to see them as Buddha due to our impure karma. But those that have pure karma can not only see a Buddha in actuality, but they can also directly receive teachings from Buddha, independence upon which they can progress along the stages that lead to the state of liberation and the state of omniscience, the state of Buddha. Then we have the Sambhogakaya, the utility or enjoyment body. This is a type of body that only Arya Bodhisattvas can see. Then we have the Dharmakaya, which has a twofold division. One type of Dharmakaya is called the Essence Kaya. The second type of Dharmakaya is called the Exalted Knowledge Dharmakaya. So we said that there are two forms of Dharmakaya. The first one that we mentioned is called the Essence Kaya. In scripture, the Essence Kaya is said to have two aspects. One aspect is natural purity. The second aspect is called adventitious purity. So here we're mentioning those different bodies of Buddhas in relation to the first subject of refuge, right? Buddha. So it's good to take note of these bodies of Buddhas. Those terms come up in teaching. So it might be something that is quite foreign to you when you encounter it for the first or second time. But if you note it down and you get used to those terms, and later on you can create those links. So it's good to pay attention to those details. So we said that the first Dharmakaya that we've mentioned is the Essence Kaya. It has those two aspects, natural purity and adventitious purity. Let's look at natural purity.
lower nyumbigi and the CCTV tabichani and delia Rajanamdaki Chakyu Munikos Padilla Waters.
So this aspect is called natural purity. So thinking of, for example, an Arya Buddha. Arya Buddha has an exalted knowledge, omniscient mind. So their omniscient mind is a mind of an exalted knowledge. And the nature of that mind is the Dhammadhatu, which means that it doesn't exist objectively. It has never existed objectively by its own entity. Primordially, it is empty of objective existence. So that empty aspect of objective existence, of existence by its own nature, is called natural purity.
Adirda, the Lord Namdaki Shagyu Monigus Lavena, and it Pena Sanji, Kaji Tamesunaya, Rinaya, and Lam Gompitoki, Keotomo Yadingi, and it knew what the Shishi Jabali, and it Toraji Ingras, Toraji Ingra, and it deep Trevichadi, that and it Guging Toki, and it har mete yuji Lord the Trubata which chayaras, but Delia and the Lord number chagyu one you goes.
So the first aspect of the essence kaya is natural purity. Now the second one is called adventitious purity. So a Buddha has first of all trained over 3 great countless eons, and through the power of them having meditated on the path, they were able to attain the freedom from the 2 obscurations, afflictive and cognitive obscurations, which means that that aspect of freedom from these 2 obscurations came through the power of having cultivated the path over such a long time. So this aspect of freedom from the 2 sets of obscurations that was attained due to those causes and conditions of cultivating the paths, that aspect of freedom from the 2 obscurations is called adventitious purity.
There Yishugusla Yishi Sanjipaviki Chik and Kembata Zawatang and Yons Sovati and Yishi Kunam Duhores, Yishi Kures.
So we said that first of all, the Dhammakaya is divided into the essence kaya and the exalted knowledge Dhammakaya. So we spoke of the essence kaya having those 2 aspects. Now the second type of Dhammakaya is the exalted knowledge Dhammakaya, which refers to the omniscience exalted knowledge of Buddha. This omniscient mind of Buddha is a mind that has those qualities of compassion, of love, of knowledge, and so forth. This is the omniscient exalted knowledge of Buddha, which is called the exalted knowledge Dhammakaya.
That means any kusum shigit namjati short samchik ra tanganzu munsin shurkures ra.
So here Geshe glanced quickly over the different bodies of Buddha. They're classified in different ways. They are sometimes classified as the 3 Buddhas of body, the 4 Buddhas of bodies, the 4 bodies of Buddha, the 3 bodies of Buddha. So we'll leave it here for now.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do the dedication prayers. Chanchu Semcho Rinpoche, Make Pana Ke Yuchi, Kyavanyam Pame Pai, Gone Gondo Pewa Sho, Gewadi Nyududa, Lama Sangye Druyan, Roa Chikyama Lupa, De Salagopa Sho, Kangri Rawe Kowe Shinkandi, Pendan Dewa Mandu Chumain, Chenre Siwan Tenzin Gyatsoyi. Shapesite Padu Thank you Tu Tsu Shan Shi Chang Gun Yahweh Ten Zin Kyung Hong So Do Cho Sung Ko Wei Le Mo Pa Da So Du Jen Pon Du Sha Ten Shu.
Thank you. Good night. Nigel,
Nigel, Leonie.
Firstly,
Spider-Man.
Did Geshe reply that he said the top 16 out of the 136 or whatever, the 132, then had to debate in front of everybody?